Is it just me, or didn't it feel like that regular season just flew by? It feels like the season just started, and here we are already at the playoffs. It's because there was so much to talk about. There was so many storylines that the season just flew by. We're at the playoffs, and we are here also at episode number 49 of the Weekly Give and Go, brought to you by thehoopdoctors.com. And the kids call me Kevin Burke. Listen, playoffs are here, yes, but you know what else is here? Tax time. I hope you filed your taxes. If not, take care of business. Go handle your business. And listen, before I get to this podcast, we're just going to do predictions for the first round playoff matchups. But before I do that, do me a favor. Press pause and go tell somebody to come watch this, okay? This is going to be a good one. Go hit up Twitter, Facebook, text somebody. Let them know they want to come back and watch this episode because this first round playoff prediction is going to be a good one. So go ahead and press pause. I'll wait for you. You're back? Okay, good. Listen. Let's start. Before I get to the actual predictions, before the season began, I said LA over Miami in 7. That was my finals prediction. I'm not going to go back on that because, Phil Jackson wins rings in clusters of 3, and this is the year to do that. And I like the Heat before the season began, and I like them even more now. So we're going to take this series by series in the order in which they're gonna actually be played this weekend. So the first series of the weekend is Chicago, number 1 Chicago in the East versus number 8 Indiana in the East. The season series, Chicago won the season series 3-1. The Bulls won all 3 of those games by double digits, and when the Pacers beat the Bulls, they beat them by 7 points. I don't want to belabor this one too much. It's going to be the Bulls in 5. It's not going to be a sweep. The Bulls, they're just too talented. I mean, they have the best record in the NBA, if you can believe it. The Chicago Bulls have the best record in the NBA. That makes absolutely no sense to me. They're going to get by the Pacers. It's not going to be a sweep. The Pacers will win 1 game, I think, at Conseco Fieldhouse. Bulls by 5. They're just a more talented team. They don't have an answer for Derrick Rose. Nobody in the league has the answer for Derrick Rose. The Bulls are going to get, but they're just way too talented. Between Boozer and Noah and Deng and Rose, of course. I mean, versus Granger and Collison. The Pacers are just not talented enough to match up with the Bulls. Bulls win that in 5. I'm not even going to belabor that one. I'm not going to try to analyze that one too much. Bulls win in 5. The next series that tips off is the number 2 Miami Heat versus the number 7 Philadelphia 76ers. A good surprise story for the Sixers this year. A good story. The Heat won all 3 matchups, all 3 games this year, all by double digits, which is why I think the Heat will win this series. I think they'll win it in 6. It's not going to be, it won't be as close. It'll be a kind of a decisive 6 games, if that makes any sense. The Heat are not going to sweep them or anything like that because they're still a new bunch. They're still new, kind of learning each other. They've never played a playoff series together, obviously. And they're a mentally fragile team. They listen way too much to the media. If they end up losing a game in the series, the media is going to start talking and they're going to start listening. And during the press conferences, they're going to start feeding into it. It's going to affect them mentally. They're a mentally fragile team. So, and plus the Sixers are a good team. Take nothing away from the Sixers. They're a good team, but they're not as good as the Heat. They don't match up as well with the Heat. But again, I think the Heat will lose a game or 2 because they're just mentally fragile and they're going to listen too much to the media. The Heat win that series in 6. The next series to tip off will be Orlando, number 4 in the East, versus Atlanta, number 5 in the East. Atlanta won the season series 3-1, but I say the Magic will sweep them because last year in the second round of the playoffs, these same Magic beat the Hawks in the second round. They swept them in the second round 4-0. They beat them, if you remember, by average of 25 points. This is the same Hawks team from last year, largely, and this I think is a better Magic team now than they were last year. People are not really picking the Magic to come out of the East. They're saying they're not as good as advertised, but again, they beat the Hawks last year by 25 points in the second round. It's a better Magic team, I think, than last year. It's the same Hawks team. Magic sweep them. That's all you need to know. The next series that kicks off is finally a Western Conference series. Dallas, number 3, versus Portland, number 6. They split the season series 2-2. Listen to this stat. Okay, a lot of pundits and experts are disrespecting the Mavericks, saying that they're going to lose to the Blazers. I'm going to agree with them and jump on the boat and say, yes, the Blazers will beat the Mavericks. The Mavericks lost. The Mavericks are 1-9 during their last 10 games playing Western Conference playoff teams. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. As long as Dirk Nowitzki is your go-to guy, you will not win a championship. A team follows the lead. The team takes the personality of their best player. Dirk is a great player, but Dirk is incredibly soft. And the Mavericks are a jump shooting team. That's kind of a soft mentality. If you're more of a jump shooting team than you are a bang it team, you're kind of a soft team. Again, I think that takes the mentality of their best player, Dirk Nowitzki. You live by the three. You're gonna, of course, you're gonna die by the three. I think the Blazers win this game in 6. Win the series in 6. And I cannot say enough about the acquisition of Gerald Wallace and what that's done for the Portland Trail Blazers. That makes them a very dangerous team. I think if the Lakers ended up being the number 3 seed, they would have had their hands full with the Blazers too. So this is not just me getting down on talking bad about the Blazers, about the Mavericks. That Gerald Wallace addition has paid huge dividends for them. But Portland, I think, will get by Dallas in 6. Not really an upset to me because I think the Blazers are a better team. Next series that kicks off, the Spurs, number 1 seed in the West. They play Memphis, number 8 in the West. Of course, obviously, they split the season series 2-2. Actually, Memphis beat the Spurs by 16 points on March 1st, believe it or not. Rudy Gay is out for the season. We know that. This happened a couple of weeks ago. Manu Ginobili is doubtful for Game 1. Okay, listen, he's doubtful for Game 1, and they split the season series 2-2. Again, the Blazers, what are they called? The Grizzlies beat the Spurs by 16 points just a few weeks ago. I do think the Spurs will win the series, but get this, I think the Spurs, it takes them 7 games to get by the Grizzlies because Manu is going to be out. They go as Manu goes, right? I think he'll play. It was his right elbow that he hyperextended, or he sprained it. It's not his shooting elbow. He'll play. We're not sure what game he'll be back, but they're going to beat him they're going to take 7 because they're an older team, the Spurs. The go as he goes, and if he's going to be back and not healthy, that doesn't bode well for them. Plus, couple that with the fact that the Grizzlies are a young, very, very young team, and they left to run. We'll see if the age catches up to the Spurs, but I do think the Spurs will win the series. But again, it'll be in 7 games. The next series that tips off is number 2 in the West, Lakers. They got number 7, New Orleans in the West. The Lakers swept the season series 4-0, and they will sweep this series 4-0. Bynum, of course, is the X factor. He's uncertain for Game 1. Is he going to play? We're not sure at this point. If he does, what are you going to get out of him? But they don't even need him. They don't need him. I mean, the Hornets, I'm just not that impressed with them. They're the least impressive playoff team to me, in my opinion. It isn't me or did Chris Paul fall off. There's no more Chris Paul discussions in the best point guard in the NBA. I think Derrick Rose took that and is wrong with it. Now Darren Williams is number 2, but there's like no Chris Paul talk about the best point guard in the NBA. But if you're a Laker fan, you gotta be uneasy. I mean, they won 16 out of the first 17 games coming out of the All-Star break, and then they lose 5 in a row. And Kobe's saying gay slurs, and he's getting fined $100,000, and he's not even really apologizing. He's apologizing, but he's not saying sorry. It's just a lot going on in La La Land for the Lakers. I'm kind of uneasy if I'm a Laker fan, which I'm not. I did pick them to win the West. I'll stick with that, but they'll breeze by the Hornets. But I'm not sure what's going on with the Lakers. They got to get that ship right by the time they get by the Hornets to get to the second round. The next series that tips off is the most intriguing to me. Number 3, Boston in the East. Number 6, New York in the East as well. Boston won the season series 4-0. Listen. That Kendrick Perkins trade is affecting Boston like nobody's business, okay? I know Perkins missed most of the season and Boston still did pretty well, but it's affecting them mentally, upstairs. Perkins was like the most beloved guy on the team, and the team feels like they were blindsided and disrespected by management who just traded one of the best guys on the team for Jeff Green and Kristich. Guys, they didn't get enough back in return for Perkins, but it was a money thing. And Doc Rivers has always hung his hat on the fact that those 5 guys, Garnett, Perkins, Ray Allen, Rondo, and Pierce, those 5 guys have never lost a playoff series when they all play together. Well, you know what? They're not all together, and it's not going to bode well for them. They're playing the Celtics, I think, are playing the worst out of any team to make the playoffs right now. They're playing the worst. They just seem very, very vulnerable. In their last 20 games, they are 9 wins and 11 losses and averaging 90 points. That's the worst out of any team in the NBA, not just playoff teams. Any team in the NBA, let me repeat that. In their last 20 games, 9 wins, 11 losses, averaging 90 points a game, the lowest point production out of any team in the NBA during that 20-game stretch. So they're very vulnerable. They've backed away into the playoffs. It's not looking good for Boston. But in the same breath, in the same token, they're playing the Knicks in the first round, who is the worst defensive team to make the playoffs. Hell, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the regular season. I mean, you need to stop the ball. You got to stop the ball in the playoffs. The Knicks, they're just not a great defensive team. They're not even a good defensive team, which is why I think the Boston Celtics will win this in 7, though, okay? It'll be closer than a lot of people are giving it credit to. If the Knicks do end up being the Celtics in this series, I will not at all be shocked, but I will say the Celtics get by in 7 because they have experience, and this Knicks team is fairly new together, and this team is built for next year and beyond, not necessarily for this year. So if they do get by again, I'm not going to be shocked, but I will say Boston. I won't be biased, okay? You guys know I'm a Knicks fan, right? I say it all the time, but I'm impartial. I'm unbiased. I don't let my heart get in the way of, doing my job. So I'm going to say the Celtics in 7. And the final series to tip off this weekend, number 4, Oklahoma City, number 5, Denver. The second most interesting matchup, in my opinion. 3-1 was Oklahoma City. They won the season series. But, of course, the Denver Nuggets are a completely new team since the Carmelo trade. Oklahoma gets by in 7 because they're just a better team. The Nuggets, I think, are playing over their heads a little bit. There was so much talk about they got the better end of the Carmelo trade, which is complete lunacy. No, they did not. I think they're playing over their heads. The Thunder are just a better team, especially with Kendrick Perkins. There really isn't a flaw. The only flaw on this team is that they're inexperienced. But they are more experienced than the Nuggets because the Nuggets are new. And the Thunder have the same core as they had last year. So Oklahoma City, I mean, no one, if they're more of a physical team now because of Perkins. If you put a body on Perkins, on Kevin Durant, and push him around, he's not the same player. People don't want to admit that, but he's not the same player. But you got Russell Westbrook, who's probably the most talented player on the Thunder. Yes, I said it. Kevin Durant is the best player, but I think Russell Westbrook is the most talented. If Westbrook and Durant were the same height, Westbrook would be a much better player. But it is what it is. I'm getting off track. The Thunder will win in 7 because they're a better team, but they'll be tested by this Nugget team who's kind of playing over their head right now. That's it right now. That's my first round predictions. Not to be outdone, let's not forget my Pump Your Breaks award. I'm going to hand this one out to head coach of the Boston Celtics, Doc Rivers. I represented the Hoop Doctors at the Wizards game this past Monday night in DC where they hosted the Celtics. It was the Celtics' second to last game of the season. It was the day after the Heat beat them up. So the Bulls had already locked up the number 1 slot in the East, and number 2 and number 3 seeds were still up for grabs. So the game had a lot of meaning. Rondo, Kevin Garnett, what's his name, Ray Allen, none of those guys, Paul Pierce, those guys didn't play 1 minute. I have no idea why Doc Rivers sat his 4 best players. It was not a meaningless game. Had they won that game and other things happened, they could have been the 2 seed, and it would have been playing the Sixers as opposed to playing the Knicks. Basically, I don't know why he just forfeited the 2 seed, did Doc Rivers, by sitting those guys. Doc, Pump Your Breaks. Please, I would like to know why he sat those guys, even though there was something to play for and there was something still on the line. Didn't make any sense to me. But that is podcast number 49. It is in the books. Remember, go and do your damn taxes. My name is Kevin Burke. I'll check you out next week, and I'll keep you up to date with where these playoff series are and why they are there. I'm out of here. You guys be good. I will check you out next week.